Well, that was some crazy action that we saw in these 11 games taking place today in the MLS midweek action. And while we're only going to get to half of the midweek action that happened today and also yesterday, I, of course, would do the remaining half tomorrow on Thursday. Now, in the first couple of games, we definitely saw some big upsets that happened in some of these games, and there was some resort that I definitely did not expect. That being said, this is 2020, and if you thought MLS was unpredictable before, yeah, I think after what you saw from this midweek action, just to show that anything can actually happen in this, and I won't be surprised, whoever wins MLS Cup, I don't think anybody is going to think that they were the team to be lifting the trophy at the end of the year, just because of how unpredictable 2020 seems to be. Now, the first game we talked about wasn't part of that unpredictability because, coming into this game between Nashville and Minnesota, I did say in the preview for the Loons, I definitely see that this could be a game where the Loons could draw, and that, as much as I know that they are looking to get at least a point out of this game, I'm also hoping the fact that they can get all 3 points, because if you're going to not only make it to the playoffs, but at least have a home game in your first playoff game, these are type of the games that you have to win. Well, unfortunately, not only the Loons did that, but this was once again another frustrating performance by Minnesota, and another performance where the team just cannot finish, and also it seemed like at time of this game, the Loons just become way too complacent and ended up just getting a draw out of this game. Although, in the first couple of minutes of this game, Nashville almost had the opening goal 4 minutes in when Jones just missed a tap-in from 4 yards out, and in many ways he probably should have scored that one, but unfortunately he just puts that one wide. And I thought early on Nashville was all over Minnesota, and that midfield battle between Nashville and Minnesota was clearly heavy favorite win for Nashville, as the Loons was just getting absolutely outmanned in the midfield. And this is also kind of unsurprising considering Jan Gregory is not with Minnesota in this game, and at least he's not going to be played for these next couple of games because on international duty. And this is also kind of a game that I also wish that Ozzie Alonso is back into this team, because if Ozzie Alonso or Jan Gregory was on this team, we would not see the Loons midfield just completely outbossed by a team that is not very decent whenever they go on the attacking end. And that Dane Sinclair once again had to come up with some big save. First, he denied Mule the opener in the 25th minute before he denied Randall Leal a chance for the opener in the 28th minute. Now, the Loons eventually did started to kind of weather that storm, and they did started to attack a little bit more as we head into halftime. And as we head into the second half, it seemed like they carried that momentum of attacking a little bit more heading into the second half, because they really started to control the game, and that midfield battle that we saw the Loons absolutely getting annihilated in the first half seems to kind of turn around, and it seemed like it was Minnesota the one that was winning the midfield battle this time, as Nashville just cannot get out of their own half and pretty much spent majority of the second half just getting pinned in their own half. And while the Loons was controlling in this game and had some great chances, they just could not put it in. And one of the biggest chances that they had, it happened in the 64th minute when Ethan Finley went through on goal, and all he had to do is basically puts it into the back of the net, and instead he was trying to be a little bit too cute, trying to chip it to the goalkeeper, and he not only didn't get that chip right, but it just goes straight into Joe Willis' hand. And as the game continues, I was also thinking, well, this is kind of a good time for Adrian Heath to kind of switch things up, and that the subs need to start to come on to maybe make an impact and potentially get the opener in this game. And while Adrian Heath did make that sub in the 71st minute by bringing Kai Kamara in the game, that was it. That was the only substitution that Minnesota made in this game. And I was, for doing that 65th minute mark, when I was really hoping for the sub, that's when I kind of wrote where the substitute is coming in, and I know Adrian Heath, for the past, he tends to be very stubborn in terms of making a substitution, and he tends to, for whatever reason, don't like to substitute players, but I thought this year he kind of started to change a little bit, and that he started to actually decided to trust his bench and decided to make some substitution. But yet in this game, I don't know why he decided to go back to old habit and decide to not make any sub, because it was pretty clear that Nashville was starting to get back into the game because of the fact that the team was just absolutely running out of gas, and that they had a big chance again in the 73rd minute when Alan Wynn basically went through on goal, but unfortunately he did a Charlie Brown moment, completely swing and miss off the ball and felt his ass right onto the ground. And yeah, the Loons got very lucky, the fact that Nashville couldn't take advantage of it, and it turns out to be probably a moment that Alan Wynn would not want to remember. But again, I thought the Loons players would just look absolutely gassed, and by the time we were getting there, the end of the game, where I was really hoping that Minnesota can maybe think about pushing a high alliance and look to get that opening goal and pretty much the winning goal of this game, they didn't do that. Instead, they become complacency, and that complacency was all shown in the last 30 seconds of the game when we could have basically just go quickly with a throw-in, but instead of that, we saw a couple of players just walking near the sideline, not even in a rush to pick up the ball, and that's when I knew that this is going to end in a 0-0 draw, and that's when I also, like many Loons fans, are probably just pulling my hair out with the way that, why in the world are we just being super complacency right now and just settle for a point when we had a big chance to potentially go for it one last time and get a steal of a win in this one. But yeah, in the end, the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 10 that Nashville has, 4 shots on goal compared to 3 that Nashville has, 7 shots off target compared to 5 that Nashville has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocking possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession. Either way, I think a draw is fair for both of these teams, but again, for Minnesota, these are kind of the resort that if they end up not getting a home game in the playoffs, once they, of course, make the playoffs this season, these are kind of the game that is going to come back to haunt them. And I don't mind the fact that Minnesota, of course, get a draw on the road because, as I said, getting a draw on the road is definitely a good thing, and it's a recipe in terms of making the playoffs. But here's the problem: if you want to have home games, you got to at least turn those draw on the road to win. And especially just 2 weeks ago when we draw 0-0 against RSL and dropped 2 very valuable points at home, this was the resort to have a chance to amend for those 2 points that we dropped against RSL, and the fact that we didn't do it is just really frustrating to see how this team is gonna look as we get closer to the playoffs. But moving on, in terms of the next game, is the 0-0 result between Atlanta and Orlando City, and I'll tell you what, this was a goalkeeping duel between Orlando City backup goalkeeper Brian Rowe and Atlanta United Brad Guzan, because both of these goalkeepers were making some spectacular save in this game, and that the only reason why this game ended 0-0 and both teams couldn't find a winner in this game is because both goalkeeper was just pretty much putting on a show in this game. And that show all started in the 10th minute when Guzan was able to make an incredible double save, first robbing Daryl DK, then robbing Rubinho on the follow-up. Then Rowe would rob Robinson on the other end from a point-blank range. I mean, Ma Robinson, he's getting closer and closer of getting his first ever MLS goal, and that probably could have been the moment because he had a free header that Brian Rowe somehow in some way was able to deny him. And I thought it was a very even game between both of these teams early on, and there was a lot of end-to-end action. And then Robinho had a chance to give Orlando the opening goal, but unfortunately he hits the post before Brian Rowe had to make Brian Rowe actually brought down Adam John in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, but there was no penalty kick that was called during that moment. Now, as much as I know Stephen Glass was absolutely livid down the touch line and was just screaming at the referee when the halftime whistle is blown, I think that was the that was the right call. The fact that there was no penalty called, because you can clearly see Adam John looks like he kind of took the dive and tried to sell it to the referee, the fact that that was a penalty, but it's a great job the fact that the referee didn't foul for that, and therefore we head to halftime 0-0 between Orlando and Atlanta. Now, in the second half, Urso had a 22-yard shot that just went wide off the goal after a deflection, and then Orlando started to kind of bring in the cavalry as Pereira decided to summon Chris Mueller and Nani into the game. Orlando kind of went with a little bit of a reserve team in this one, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure Oscar Pereira realized that this game was up for reach, and he decided to bring two of the most dangerous attacker that his team has into this game and hope that maybe they can get a goal. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, because in the 71st minute, well, first of all, in the 71st minute, Brian Rowe once again made a great save by denying walks from close range before Nani unfortunately hits the post off of a deflection. And that, for the last 12 minutes, it seemed like this game was really up for grabs, and that whoever can able to outsmart one of these goalkeeper that was just putting on a show and stood on their heads in this game is probably going to win the game. And that Guzan basically said, yeah, I'm not going to be the one that is going to be beaten, because he once again made another incredible save, this time robbing Junior Urso, who missed a point-blank range. You could argue that Urso clearly should have tapped that one in, because he was just so wide open like that, and the fact that he fluffed his line like that is probably gonna be a very frustrating thing for Orlando City fans to deal with. But I also argue that was just an incredible save from Guzan, and the fact that he made himself as big as possible, cutting down the angle, a chance for Urso to slot it in. That is just incredible goalkeeping work. And that, yeah, in the end, it did finish in a 0-0 draw. And, even though both of these teams did not win, I'm pretty sure both of those goalkeepers would feel like this was a win for them with the incredible performance that they put in this game. But the shots in this game, 9 shots compared to 15 that Orlando City has, 3 shots on goal compared to 6 that Orlando City has, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that Orlando City has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 6 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that they had in this game. And, I'm not quite sure if either of these teams are either going to be happy or upset about this. I guess maybe they'll be happy, because for Orlando, it's another point that they got on the road, while for Atlanta, they are able to keep their rival Orlando City to only have to celebrate that one win that they got a couple of weeks ago against them, when Orlando was able to win 3-1, and that is pretty much it, and that they don't lose to their hated rival for the second time this season. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Red Bulls and Inter Miami, and what a win this was for Inter Miami. A come from behind upset win against the Red Bulls, and for Gonzalo Higuain, not only the fact that he scored his first ever MLS goal in this, but he scored an incredible free kick in this game to pretty much just silence a lot of critics that it has in terms of his performance in the first 2 games. But that being said, the Red Bulls in the first half, how in the world were they not at least 2 or 3-0 up in this game in the first half is a hard to believe. And that they had a big chance in the 18th minute when Barlow header was somehow clear off the line by Matt Tweedy. And, I thought originally that one actually went into the back of the net and crossed the line, but somehow, in some way, Matt Tweedy was able to clear that one in. But that being said, Red Bulls were looking all over Miami early, and that McCarthy had to rob Barlow on a one-on-one opportunity. I thought Joe McCarthy did very well in this game, and it seemed like when I talk about how some of these teams losing their starting goalkeeper and how it's kind of a little bit of a back-breaking loss that they suffer, that doesn't seem like it was the case, because you know how Orlando City without Pedro Gallese for at least a couple of games, Brian Rowe really stepped up in this game against Atlanta and did very well, and the same can go with Joe McCarthy, who I think kind of surprised me, the fact that he looked absolutely amazing in this one and almost did as good job in goal as what Luis Robles would be in goal for Inter Miami in this game. Now, in the 36th minute, Strout had another chance to give the Red Bulls the opening goal in this game, but unfortunately his shot just went wide as this one and 0-0 heading into halftime, which, again, how in the world did the Red Bulls are not at least 2 or 3-0 up in first half is really astonishing to see. But if you're Miami, you're probably happy the fact that it is at 0-0, and even though they were just getting absolutely plummeted by the Red Bulls, at least they were still in this game. Now, in the second half, once again, the Red Bulls continue where they left off in the first half, which is they continue to try to search that first goal. And eventually, they did get that first goal as all the pressure that they had paid off in the 53rd minute when Omar Fernandez is able to score from Strout and Nielis, and the Red Bulls, of course, got that 1-0 lead. And I thought at that point, well, with the Red Bulls finally breaking through, this is when the floodgates should probably open for the Red Bulls, right? No. 2 minutes later, Pellegrini scores from Lewis Morgan, and this is just a classic example of the fact that when you, of course, just score a goal, you're always going to be the most vulnerable because the other team can just go on the other end and can easily score against you, and this was a great example of that as the Red Bulls just kind of commit a schoolboy kind of there, scoring on one end, got too excited, and then next thing you know, it's back to level pegging in this game. And that I thought that goal also kind of energized Miami because while Aaron Long had a chance to retake the lead for the Red Bulls in the 63rd minute when he just headed a shot wide, I thought Miami was getting more chances than they ever had in this game after they got the equalizer, and it once again looked like it was a game that was up for grabs, that both of these teams could potentially get the winner, and the winner happened in the 81st minute, and Gonzalo Higuain happened in the 81st minute when he struck an absolute beautiful ball from the free kick for about 20 yards out to get his first ever MLS goal. I mean, this one, I don't think you can put like 5 goalkeepers in goal. I don't think any of them would save this because this one was just put in such a perfect place in the top right corner where no keeper can save whatsoever. And I also kind of wrote karma for shit messing, which was a color commentator for MSG in this game and the guy that here in this broadcast on ESPN Plus. And the reason why I wrote that is that I know earlier shit messing basically kind of insulted Gonzalo Higuain by saying he probably just gone out to South Beach and ate a bunch of pizza to look like fat like he did in this game and kind of look out of shape. And you know the old saying, chat shit, get banged, shit messing? Yeah, you just basically fell into victim of that because once you decide to chat shit and try to insult probably one of the best goals scored in the world, yeah, you are going to have to pay for that, and karma definitely hit him hard in the 81st minute. And I like how he did kind of apologize for that at the end, but we all know that he basically just got chat shit get banged during that moment. But as much as the Red Bulls decided to try to get the equalizer, Miami was able to hold on to get a big 2-1 win on the road. And the shots in this game, 14 shots compared to 9 that Miami has, 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that Miami has, 4 shots off target compared to 1 that Miami has, 5 shots out of block compared to 3 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession. And yeah, for Miami, there's hope. The fact that this team can still get into the playoffs. And again, I know for the last couple of games, Miami has definitely not looked like a team that is even close to being contending for the playoffs. But, you know, they're in the Eastern Conference. And I've always said, if you're in the Eastern Conference and knowing there's a lot of bad team in the Eastern Conference, it doesn't take much of either getting one win or getting a little bit of a winning streak going, and you basically can find yourself getting into the playoffs. Whereas for the Red Bulls, they also got to be careful of the fact that even though they're still kind of in that playoff position, yeah, these are kind of the resort that is going to come back to haunt the Red Bulls if they do not make the playoffs and start to go on a losing run. Because while you can, of course, get a bit of a winning run to rise up in the table, if you started to lose a couple of games and go on a losing streak, you can easily find yourself stumbling down the Eastern Conference and potentially find yourself below the red line very quickly like that. But moving on into the next match is TFC versus New England, which Toronto got a 1-0 win, but it was a very ugly 1-0 win that Toronto got in this game, and it was definitely not a Toronto performance that was like the last couple of games where TFC just looked absolutely amazing against good team. Whereas for New England, I know that there's going to be a lot of frustration in terms of a controversial call in this game, but this was a game where it pretty much sums up the problem that New England has this season, especially at home. Now, in the first half, New England, they were on top early in this game, but there was just no breakthrough for them because they could not do anything in terms of the final third and also put the ball into the back of the net. And I also kind of wrote, is Toronto looking to start playing in the second half? Because, well, Toronto has been gone on a good run in these last couple of games. One of the things that I realized is that TFC, they tends to be a little bit slacking in the first half. It's almost as if they want their opponent to have a head start, and then in the second half, that's when they're being serious and started to really come alive. Which, to my biggest surprise, they actually scored a goal in the first half, and it came in the 29th minute when Ayo Akiniola was able to score what would be the winning goal of this game. But there was definitely some controversy surrounding this, and this is where I talked about how New England fans are going to be angry about this goal because they feel like Akiniola definitely looked like he pushed up Andrew Fell to basically whip through on goal there. And, you know, I look at it a couple of times, and yes, I think there is an argument, the fact that he kind of did shove Andrew Fell right onto the ground to basically go through on goal, but at the same time, you could also kind of argue that Farrell might have been a little bit stronger in that moment to not just get a striker that just kind of pushed him off. And maybe he might think about trying to clear that ball away before Ayo Akiniola had a chance to pretty much put his head down and just trying to sprint through to trying to go through on goal. But that gave Toronto the 1-0 lead, but New England once again continued to try to get the equalizer and try to put away the first goal. Brendan Bai had a chance in the 37th minute, but unfortunately, while he was open from 12 yards out, he basically blasted that one over the bar, and TFC had a 1-0 advantage heading into the second half, which this would be bad news for New England because TFC usually perform very well in the second half. However, that was not the case in this game because in the second half, New England continued to look like they were in complete control, but they didn't really have any finish whatsoever to potentially get the opening goal. Then they got a big break in the 66th minute when Delgado recklessly brought down Lee Gwyn in the box, which give New England a penalty. Adam Buxa basically stepped up during this penalty to give a chance to get the equalizer, but I kind of had a bad feeling that this was not going to end well because Adam Buxa is pretty much one of many players in this league that has belonged kind of the snake bit club in MLS. I mean, he's just really struggled this season and just doesn't seem like he has any rhythm in terms of finding the ball into the back of the net. And in this sequence where he basically skied this penalty over the bar and missed the penalty for New England a chance to get the equalizer, it's a perfect example of the fact that he just have no confidence whatsoever in terms of putting the ball into the back of the net, and that New England missed a huge opportunity to tie the game up at that point. That being said, they continued to try to search for the equalizer. Pineda came close for about 24 yards out, but unfortunately it just went wide. And then Toronto kind of started to park the bus a little bit, and, you know, I know TFC fans will kind of feel a little bit irritated the fact that Greg Vanny decided to just kind of park the bus and hold on to this 1-0 lead, but I feel like that was the right call, knowing the fact that, you know, you're on the road, you're trying to get all 3 points in this game against a New England team that seems like they just don't have their shooting boots whatsoever. It seemed like this is the perfect strategy to just park the bus and hold on to this 1-0 lead, which that is exactly what Toronto got, as they were able to hold on to a 1-0 lead in this game. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 6 that TFC had, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that TFC had, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that TFC had, 2 shots out of block compared to none that TFC had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that TFC had. And again, this was not a vintage performance by TFC, but they get the crucial 3 points to basically now take over at the top of the Eastern Conference, while New England, their struggle at home continues. And, I know they're going to be mad about the goal that they concede where there should have been a foul in that. But at the end of the day, when you had a chance to put away a penalty, and you had numerous chances of putting in the ball into the back of the net, and you don't do that, yeah, you definitely don't deserve anything out of this game. And, if New England want to make the playoffs this season and look competitive, they got to figure out their goal scoring form that has just been so bad in these last couple of games. But moving on, in terms of the next match, so as I mentioned, TFC is now at the top of the Eastern Conference and currently lead in the Supporters' Shield, and the reason why that is the case is because Columbus suffered a shock 2-1 loss against Montreal, and of all team that I thought was going to finally cause Columbus to lose their first ever home game this season, Montreal was probably one of the team that is last on the list as the team that I thought they were going to win against Columbus. But I also thought the Impact played a perfect road game in this, and Thierry Henry, despite the fact that there's critics in terms of how bad he's been coaching this team, he basically put a tactical masterpiece of how a road team should be playing in MLS and able to get a crucial 3 points on the road. Now, in the second minute, they almost got a 1-0 lead, that is the Montreal Impact, when Bojan basically hits the post after just a sloppy giveaway from Columbus, which is very, very unlike them, consider how good they have been on the defensive end this season. Then Bojan hits the post again in the 24th minute, but luckily for Montreal, it fell right into Lappalainen, who, by the way, I thought he was actually with the Finnish national team, but I guess that maybe is not the case, as he was available in this game. And originally, the shot was blocked from Afro, but then he was able to basically hit it on the second attempt. And in fact, even if he wasn't able to hit it on the second attempt, Montreal would have got a penalty in this, because Afro actually handball in this instant, and it's good job there by the referee to play the advantage, even though it was clear that that's a penalty. He played the advantage, and Montreal was able to take advantage of that to give a 1-0 lead in this game. Now, that being said, Columbus, they knew that when they were down 1-0, that they had to kind of start wake up a little bit, and they did. Mensah had a chance from about 10 yards out, but unfortunately he just heads it wide. But Columbus was really pushing to try to look for an equalizer, and Montreal was kind of starting to bunker a little bit and try to maybe ride out this game with a 1-0 win, but that didn't work, because in the 45th minute, Jerzy Zardes is able to tie the game up, and this might be one of the flukiest goals that Jerzy Zardes will ever score, because Louis Blanks, as he was trying to clear the ball away, it hits right into Zardes' face, which somehow in some way bounces it into the back of the net. And, even if that's a fluky goal, I don't think Zardes will care whatsoever, because Columbus tied the game up at that point, and they almost took the lead right on the stroke of halftime, but Diop was able to rob Artur right on the stroke of halftime, as Clement Diop had another good game in this one, and probably one of the reasons why Montreal was able to get all 3 points in this game. Now, in the second half, again, Columbus was knocking on the door to try to get the lead in this game, but then in the 71st minute, this is where controversy began. And, after tonight, New England fans are not the only one that's going to be angry the fact that their team lost because of a controversial call, because Columbus also had a controversial call that gone against them after VAR decided to give a penalty for Montreal after Jimenez brought down Bojan. And yeah, that definitely looked like it was very soft, and that maybe Bojan kind of sold it a little bit in terms of that. But again, I've seen it before where even though you have kind of like a soft penalty like that, when you're able to kind of sold the penalty a little bit, and you kind of saw it enough where VAR just kind of sees it, and just to see that that's enough contact to be a penalty, it's always going to be given a penalty. So yeah, Montreal was able to get the penalty, and the guy that of course won the penalty, that is Bojan, was able to put it away to make it 2-1 in favor of Montreal. But Columbus, again, they were really pushing to try to get the equalizer, but Diop made a good save there to rob Santos in the 79th minute. Montreal was kind of really parking the bus in the last 10 minutes, while Columbus was just throwing the kitchen sink to try to at least salvage a point and not lose their unbeaten record at home. But unfortunately, that was not going to happen because Montreal in the end was able to hold on. And the shots in this game, 19 shots compared to 8 that Montreal has, 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Impact has, 9 shots off target compared to 4 that the Impact has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 5 that the Crew has, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that Columbus had. And again, just like I said about New England fans, for Columbus, I know they're going to be frustrated with that penalty that went against them, but at the same time, they had a lot of chances in this game, and if they were able to just be a little bit more clinical in this game, they could have got a draw out of this one. And also, I kind of feel like injuries are really starting to catch up to this Columbus Crew team, because coming into this game, the Crew did not have the likes of Darlington Nagbe, Lucas Zalarian, and even Eloy Rome in net for this game, and that I feel like those players are really big in terms of why the Columbus Crew has been very decent this year, and that, for these next couple of weeks, they're just going to continue to have to ride it out, despite the fact that injury is really plaguing this team, and plaguing this team a chance to finish near the top spot in the Eastern Conference this season. But moving on, in terms of the last game that I'm going to be reviewing in part 1, is probably the least surprising game on this board, and one of the least surprising game from this week's action. I mean, as much as we had some very surprising gaming result that you definitely did not expect it, this one was as expected as it gets, as the Union was able to get a 3-0 win against FC Cincinnati, although the Union did have to kind of wait a little bit, and that their fans had to be tested with their patience to get the opening goal in this game. And that, once again, FC Cincinnati, I thought they looked promising early in this game, but even though they looked promising early in this game, I kind of had a feeling they weren't going to score a goal, because this is kind of the thing that I've seen with FC Cincinnati, where they have some promising moments, but because of the fact that they just don't know how to finish or actually able to create a good final ball, that is probably the reason why they have been just struggling so much this season in terms of scoring goal. But overall, I thought both of these teams was really struggling in the final third, and that the only big chance came in the 45th or the 48th minute and the 3rd minute of stoppage time, when Andre Blake was able to rob Joe Zhao on the volley. Now, heading into the second half, once again, Cincinnati looked like they were promising, but unfortunately they cannot find the finishing touch. And as soon as when the Union eventually find that opening goal, which came in the 59th minute, when the Chico, Elzinho, was able to score to give the Union a 1-0 lead. And, this was kind of a little bit fortunate for the Union, because it did took a wicked deflection off of Van der Verve and basically hits it into the back of the net. But still, the Union finally got the goal that they deserve. And as soon as the Union got that opening goal, yeah, I knew this game was over, and that FC Cincinnati is going to capitulate again, and they did once again in this one, as 14 minutes later, Bedoya would score a lovely volley from Aronson to give Philly a 2-0 lead, before Jack Elliott was able to head it away from Montero to make it 3-0 in favor of the Union. And that is the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 11 that FC Cincinnati has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that FC Cincinnati has. Both teams had 5 shots off target, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that FC Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 43% possession compared to 57% possession that FC Cincinnati has. As Union, congratulations, you're the winner of this week of getting in the one of the most easiest 3 points you're going to get this season. And as for FC Cincinnati, I mean, there's really not much I have to say about this team other than the fact that, yeah, this offseason they're going to be once again have to blow up again and try to build this team, because clearly something is not, or clearly the squad that they try to build this offseason is not working. And something tells me that some of the scouting department or some of the people on the higher ranked office for FC Cincinnati might be on a really hot seat right now, because if the second time you don't get this right and you don't learn from your same mistake that you made in your inaugural season, yeah, you are probably going to potentially end up in the unemployment line. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of these first 6 games from this midweek action. Stay tuned tomorrow to where I look at the last 6 games from this midweek action, where we also are going to see a couple of crazy games that happen in this week's midweek action around MLS. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of all of these games. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time.